Captain Lisa Monroe stood frozen on the bridge of the International Space Alliance flagship. Her eyes were fixed on the main screen where the massive alien ship hung against the blackness of space. The vessel was unlike anything humans had ever built. It seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, its surface rippling like dark water despite its obvious metallic structure. "How long has it been there?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fear churning in her stomach. 3 days, Captain," replied Jack Hudson, the ship's intelligence officer. "It appeared near Neptune's orbit and hasn't moved since. Our long-range sensors only detected it because of the energy ripples it's sending out." Lisa nodded and turned to the communications station. "Any response to our hails?" "Nothing direct," said Communications Officer Diane Powell. "But we are receiving some kind of transmission. It's not aimed at us specifically, more like a broadcast to the entire system." Jack moved to Diane's station and studied the incoming data. "It's a mathematical sequence. Primes, then Fibonacci. It's a first contact protocol." He tapped several commands into the console, directing the ship's AI to analyze the pattern. "They're trying to establish a common language," Lisa realized. "Yes, but there's something else mixed in with the math," Jack said, frowning at his screen. "The AI is having trouble with it, but..." The main view screen flickered and changed. The alien ship disappeared, replaced by a series of symbols that shifted and rearranged themselves. Slowly, the symbols transformed into English letters. "The translation matrix is working," Jack said with surprise. "It's adapting faster than expected." The message on the screen became clear. "Attention inhabitants of Solar System Designation 29447b. Your world has been selected for integration into the Vesperian Empire. Prepare your resources and population for assessment. Resistance is unprecedented and futile. You have 30 planetary rotations to prepare for our arrival." Below this message was a detailed list of resources the aliens expected Earth to provide, along with references to population adjustments that made Lisa's blood run cold. "Send this to Earth Command immediately," Lisa ordered. "Priority Alpha." Within hours, an emergency meeting of world leaders convened at the United Nations headquarters in Geneva. Lisa attended virtually from her ship, along with other military commanders from around the world. "The alien vessel hasn't made any aggressive moves," General Nathan Harris of the North American Defense Coalition reported. "But our analysis of its size and energy output suggests weaponry far beyond our capabilities." "Do we believe their claim about this Vesperian Empire?" asked the Chinese Premier. "We have no reason to doubt it," replied Dr. Olivia West, who had been quietly listening until now. As head of the classified Prometheus Defense Initiative, she rarely appeared at public meetings, even ones as restricted as this. Lisa had heard rumors about Dr. West's work, but like most military personnel, she knew only that the Prometheus Initiative was developing advanced defensive technologies. "The mathematical complexity of their communication suggests an advanced civilization," Dr. West continued, "and the translation matrix adapted to our language too quickly. They've done this before." "Done what before?" asked the Secretary General. "First contact. Conquest." Dr. West's voice was grim. "Their message mentioned that resistance is unprecedented. That implies they've encountered other civilizations, and none have successfully resisted." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "What options do we have?" asked the European Union President. General Harris cleared his throat. "Conventional military response would be insufficient based on our analysis." "There might be another option," Dr. West said quietly. "The Prometheus Initiative has developed something that could help. It's experimental, but the theory is sound." The Secretary General looked surprised. "What kind of technology are we talking about?" "A gravitational manipulation device. We call it Aegis. It creates localized singularities, essentially controlled black holes on a very small scale. They only last for microseconds, but the destructive potential is significant." Gasps and murmurs filled the room. "How weaponized is this technology?" General Harris asked. "We've conducted controlled tests in deep space, beyond Pluto's orbit," Dr. West answered. "It works, but deploying it against an unknown alien technology has risks." Lisa spoke up from her video feed. Might I suggest we try diplomatic channels first? The aliens have given us 30 days. We should use that time to learn more about them. The leaders agreed. Earth would establish communication while secretly preparing its defenses. Over the next week, Lisa's ship served as the communication point between Earth and the alien vessel. The Vesperians agreed to send data about their empire, which spanned 12 star systems and had integrated over 30 other civilizations. Integration doesn't sound so bad on the surface, Jack said as he reviewed the alien transmissions. They offer protection, technology, advancement. At what cost? Lisa asked. Autonomy, resources. According to this, integrated worlds must provide 40% of all resources to the Empire. And these population adjustments? Jack's face darkened. They're vague about that, but reading between the lines, I think they reduce any population they consider excessive. Lisa felt sick. They're talking about culling humans. It seems so. The ship's communication system chimed. Captain, we're receiving a request from the alien vessel. They want to establish visual contact. Lisa straightened her uniform. Put it through. The view screen flickered and a figure appeared. It looked almost human, but with blue translucent skin through which Lisa could see the pulsing of internal organs. Its eyes reflected light like mirrors, giving no hint of emotion. I'm Executor Zandrath of the Vesperian Empire, the alien said, its mouth moving in perfect sync with the English words. I will oversee your world's integration. I am Captain Lisa Monroe of Earth. We have questions about this integration process. Questions are expected. Compliance is required. The alien's voice was smooth, almost pleasant. Your species shows promise. Your technologies are primitive but innovative. Under Vesperian guidance, you could advance centuries within decades. And if we choose not to be integrated? Lisa asked carefully. The alien's mirror eyes seemed to flash. Such resistance has not occurred in 7,000 cycles. It would be unfortunate. Unfortunate how? Unnecessary suffering would result. Integration is inevitable, Captain Monroe. All civilizations eventually understand this. After the communication ended, Lisa immediately contacted Earth Command. They're not going to take no for an answer, she reported. And I don't think they're expecting us to try. General Harris's face was grim on the screen. Then perhaps we can use that to our advantage. Dr. West's team is working around the clock on the Aegis technology. If the Vesperians aren't expecting resistance, we might have the element of surprise. A surprise won't be enough against that kind of technology, Lisa warned. Perhaps not, Dr. West said, joining the call. But we don't need to win a prolonged war. We just need to make the cost of taking Earth too high for them to pay. Lisa looked at the alien ship on her view screen, a dark shadow against the stars. They chose Earth as a target, she said quietly. Let's make sure they regret that choice. Commander Alan Carter adjusted his uniform one last time before stepping onto the transport shuttle. As leader of Earth's delegation, he felt the weight of humanity's future on his shoulders. 5 other delegates accompanied him, 2 scientists, 2 military officers, and 1 diplomat. Their mission was to meet the Vesperians face-to-face on a neutral space station positioned halfway between Earth and the alien mothership. Nervous? Asked Dr. Samantha Ellis, Earth's leading xenobiologist. Alan forced a smile. Wouldn't you be? We're about to meet aliens who want to conquer our planet. They say integrate, not conquer, corrected diplomat Maria Gonzalez. There might be room for negotiation. Alan wasn't convinced, but he kept his doubts to himself. The shuttle detached from the space station and began its journey toward the meeting point. Through the viewport, Alan could see the massive Vesperian vessel in the distance, a dark shape that seemed to bend the light around it. The neutral meeting station was a simple structure, a large circular room with a table in the center. It had been constructed by robotic drones following plans provided by both humans and Vesperians. The air inside was a careful mix that both species could breathe. When the Vesperian delegation entered, Alan struggled to keep his face neutral. The aliens were taller than humans with blue skin that seemed almost transparent. Through it, he could see dark shapes of organs pulsing with an unfamiliar rhythm. Their eyes reflected everything like perfect mirrors, making it impossible to read any emotion. "We welcome you," said the lead Vesperian in perfect English. "I am Executor Zandrath. These are my advisors." Alan stepped forward. "I am Commander Alan Carter of Earth. We appreciate this opportunity for direct dialogue." The meeting began formally. The Vesperians described their empire in detail: 12 star systems, 30 integrated civilizations, thousands of years of history. They spoke of integration as a gift, offering Earth protection from cosmic threats and access to advanced technology. "Your species shows remarkable adaptability," said Zandrath. "This is valued in the Empire. Your transition period will be shorter than most." "What exactly does this transition involve?" Alan asked carefully. "Resource allocation adjustments, population distribution optimization, governance restructuring." The alien's words were smooth but vague. Dr. Ellis leaned forward. "When you say population distribution optimization, could you be more specific?" A slight pause. "Your current population exceeds sustainable parameters for your resource base," Zandrath explained. "Adjustment to optimal levels will ensure long-term prosperity." "You're talking about reducing our population?" Alan said bluntly. "Temporary reduction for long-term prosperity," corrected the alien. 40% reduction is projected as necessary." The human delegation exchanged horrified glances. 3 billion people. "And if we refuse integration?" Alan asked, keeping his voice steady. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. "Such resistance has not occurred in 7,000 cycles," stated Zandrath. "It would necessitate cleansing protocols." "Cleansing protocols?" "Yes. Complete sterilization rather than selective reduction." The alien said this as calmly as discussing the weather. "This is inefficient and wasteful. We prefer integration." When the delegation returned to Earth, the news spread quickly. Panic gripped some regions, while others responded with defiance. Military forces worldwide mobilized under a unified command structure for the first time in human history. Meanwhile, at a secret facility buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Olivia West and engineer Ryan Phillips worked frantically on the Aegis device. The laboratory hummed with energy as they calibrated the gravitational manipulation technology. "The equations check out," Ryan said, studying the holographic display. "In theory, this should create a singularity stable enough to disrupt their shield technology." Olivia nodded. "Theory is one thing, but we've never tested it against alien technology. We don't have much choice," Ryan replied grimly. "The simulations show their weapons could glass half the planet in hours." Across the world, other preparations accelerated. Civilian populations moved to hardened shelters deep underground. The colonies on Mars and Europa evacuated non-essential personnel back to Earth. Military units trained with new weapons designed based on what little they had learned about Vesperian technology. Admiral Susan Grant stood on the bridge of the ISA, flagship Defiance, watching as her crew prepared the ship for what might be humanity's last stand. The Defiance was one of 6 battleships fitted with the experimental Aegis device. "Status report," she ordered. "All systems operational, Admiral," replied her first officer. "The Aegis device is online but untested in combat conditions." Susan nodded. "And the rest of the fleet?" "Positioned as ordered. Defensive formation around Earth. The stealth vessels are standing by for your command." Susan turned to the tactical display. Earth's fleet was tiny compared to the Vesperian armada, but they had one advantage. The enemy didn't expect serious resistance. "It's time," she said firmly. She opened a channel to all ships. "This is Admiral Grant. The Vesperian delegation has made their intentions clear. They expect us to surrender without a fight. They expect us to sacrifice billions of our people to their empire. They're about to learn that humanity doesn't surrender." She paused, looking at the faces of her bridge crew. "We're sending a message to the Vesperian vessel, not one of surrender, but a warning." The message was transmitted directly to the Vesperian mothership. We have studied your ship. We have analyzed your technology. You believe us primitive, but we have teeth. This is your one and only warning. Leave our system now, or face extinction. The response came quickly. First silence, then what humans interpreted as incredulity and finally amusement. A small scout ship detached from the Vesperian mothership and moved toward Saturn's moon Titan. The unmanned research outpost there suddenly flared bright on the sensors, then disappeared. They've destroyed Titan Base, reported the tactical officer. Complete annihilation. A new transmission arrived from the Vesperians. Your resistance is noted. Your warning is rejected. Prepare for arrival. In the war room beneath Geneva, world leaders watched the exchange with grim faces. They're coming, said General Harris. 28 days since first contact. They're not even waiting the full 30 they promised. Are we ready? Asked the Secretary General. Dr. West stepped forward. As ready as we can be. The Aegis devices are installed on the orbital platforms and battleships. We've discovered something important about their technology. Their ships generate a specific energy signature that might be vulnerable to our device. Might be? Someone asked. There's a catch, Dr. West admitted. To be truly effective, the Aegis would need to be deployed from within their shields. Silence fell across the room. That's a suicide mission, General Harris said finally. Yes, agreed Dr. West. That's exactly what it is. Back on the Defiance, Admiral Grant received the update. We need volunteers for a stealth insertion team, she announced to her senior officers. Lieutenant Frank Miller stepped forward immediately. I'll lead the team, Admiral. You understand the odds? She asked quietly. Frank nodded. Someone has to do it. We only need to succeed once. They need to succeed every time. As the Vesperian fleet began moving toward Earth, humanity prepared for the fight of its existence. They had faced extinction before, from asteroids, climate change, and their own weapons. But this was different. This was their first test against the stars, and they refused to fail. Lieutenant Frank Miller studied the holographic image of the Vesperian mothership one more time. He had memorized every detail they had managed to gather, but he couldn't shake the feeling that it wouldn't be enough. The massive alien vessel had sections they couldn't scan, systems they didn't understand, and defenses they could only guess at. Thinking about backing out? Asked Kelly Brooks, the team's tech specialist. Her fingers moved quickly over her tablet as she calibrated her equipment. Frank shook his head. Just wishing we had more intel. We never have enough intel, said Peter Garcia, the demolitions expert. That's why they send us in. His hands worked steadily as he modified the Aegis devices to be more compact. Each device was now the size of a coffee mug, small enough to carry but powerful enough to create a localized singularity. The stealth insertion team consisted of 8 volunteers from different countries. Besides Frank, Kelly, and Peter, there was Sergei from Russia, Jun from South Korea, Aisha from Nigeria, Noah from Canada, and Luis from Brazil. All of them were specialists in covert operations, and all of them knew this mission was likely one way. Cloaking technology is experimental, Admiral Grant had told them during their final briefing. It should mask your shuttle from Vesperian sensors long enough to get you close. After that, you'll need to find an access point and place the Aegis devices at these key locations. She had pointed to several spots on the alien ship's schematic. Now, as they prepared in the hangar bay of the Defiance, Frank watched his team with pride. Humanity had come together in a way he had never seen before. Former enemies now fought side by side against a common threat. Across Earth, that same unity was evident. Russian and American forces trained together. Chinese and European, scientists shared research without reservation. Indian and Pakistani troops stood shoulder to shoulder in defense batteries. For the first time in history, humans had truly set aside their differences. In the command center beneath Geneva, Dr. West monitored the final preparations. The Aegis platforms in Earth orbit were fully operational, and 6 battleships, including the Defiance, carried smaller versions of the device. Any updates on the Vesperian fleet? She asked General Harris. They've passed the orbit of Mars, he replied grimly. At their current speed, they'll reach Earth in just under 17 hours. Dr. West nodded and turned to Ryan Phillips. How confident are you in the Aegis system? The math works, Ryan said simply. The question is whether we can deploy it effectively. He pointed to the screen showing Frank's stealth shuttle. Everything depends on them. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Grant received the latest updates. Status of the fleet? All ships in defensive positions, reported her first officer. Civilian evacuations to underground shelters are at 93% completion. And the colonies? Mars reports all non-essential personnel evacuated. Europa Station is down to skeleton crew. Susan nodded, her face grim. Send the order. All ships to battle stations. Fighter squadrons to launch positions. All weapons hot. Across the solar system, humanity braced for the coming storm. Every weapon they had, from orbital defense platforms to ground-based lasers, was ready. But everyone knew their conventional weapons would likely be useless against Vesperian shields. In his shuttle, Frank checked his team's equipment one final time. Remember, our primary objective is placing the Aegis devices at the designated points. If we succeed, those singularities will disrupt their main power systems and drop their shields, giving our fleet a chance to hit them with everything we've got. And if we fail? Asked Aisha quietly. Frank met her eyes. Then Earth faces those ships with nothing but courage and conventional weapons. The shuttle bay doors opened, revealing the vastness of space. In the distance, they could see flashes of light, the Vesperian fleet approaching. Launch when ready, came Admiral Grant's voice over the comm. Frank took a deep breath. Launch. The stealth shuttle slipped silently from the Defiance, its experimental cloaking technology bending light around it. According to theory, it should be invisible to Vesperian sensors, according to theory. Hours later, Earth's orbital defense grid detected the approaching Vesperian fleet. The alien armada was massive, one enormous mothership surrounded by hundreds of smaller vessels. They're spreading out, reported the tactical officer on the Defiance. Taking up attack positions. Admiral Grant nodded. Commence operation. Distraction. Commander Carter led the first wave, 30 fighters designed to draw attention and create confusion. They darted between the Vesperian vessels, firing targeted shots at what intelligence believed were sensor arrays. Most of the shots dissipated harmlessly against alien shields, but the attack served its purpose. The Vesperians turned their attention to the fighters, momentarily ignoring the rest of Earth's defenses, and completely missing the cloaked shuttle approaching their mothership. Frank's shuttle slipped through the chaos, navigating between Vesperian vessels. We're approaching the mothership, he reported quietly, though he knew the transmission might give away their position. No sign they've detected us yet. On Earth, Dr. West watched the battle unfold on multiple screens. The first shots from the Vesperian fleet had disabled 3 orbital platforms and damaged the lunar defense base. Earth's conventional weapons were proving largely ineffective against Vesperian shields, just as they had feared. Activate the Aegis devices on the battleships, ordered General Harris. Dr. West gave the command. On 6 Earth battleships, the Aegis devices powered up, creating localized gravity distortions. 2 smaller Vesperian vessels strayed too close to the effect and were caught in the gravitational field. The ships crumpled inward as space itself seemed to fold around them. It works, exclaimed Ryan. The Aegis works. But the victory was short-lived. The Vesperians quickly identified the source of the threat and targeted the Aegis-equipped ships with precision strikes. 2 battleships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. They're adapting, Dr. West said grimly. Everything depends on Miller's team now. Frank's shuttle had reached the massive hull of the Vesperian mothership. According to their scans, there should be an access point nearby, something that looked like a maintenance hatch. There, said Kelly, pointing to a seam in the alien hull. That matches what we're looking for. Frank guided the shuttle closer. Prepare for EVA. We go in small teams. Kelly, Sergei, and I will enter first and secure the area. The rest of you follow with the Aegis devices. They suited up and prepared to leave the shuttle. Frank knew the odds were against them, but he also knew they had no choice. Behind them, Earth fought desperately against overwhelming odds. Ahead of them lay the heart of the enemy, and possibly humanity's only chance for survival. "Ready?" he asked his team. 7 determined faces looked back at him. "For Earth," said Aisha. Frank nodded. "For Earth." Frank pushed through the alien airlock with Sergei and Kelly close behind. The interior of the Vesperian mothership was eerily quiet. Soft blue light pulsed along the walls, illuminating corridors that seemed designed for beings slightly taller than humans. The air was breathable but had a strange metallic taste. "Atmosphere is safe, but I'd keep helmets on," Sergei said, checking his scanner. "Slight traces of elements we don't have on Earth." Frank nodded and signaled the rest of the team to enter. One by one they filed through the airlock, each carrying a modified Aegis device. The devices hummed softly with contained energy. "Which way?" Peter asked, glancing down corridors that extended in 3 directions. Kelly consulted her tablet. "According to the energy readings, the main power core should be that way." She pointed down the corridor to their right. "We need to split up. 3 teams, 3 targets." Frank divided them quickly. "Kelly, you're with me. We'll target the main power core. Peter, take Aisha and Noah for the shield generators. Sergei, Luis, and June head for the command center." They shared a final look, knowing they might never see each other again. No one spoke of the odds. Instead, Peter just said, "See you on the other side." Then they separated, each team heading toward their assigned target. Above Earth, the battle raged with growing intensity. The Vesperian fleet had entered orbit with shocking speed. Their main vessel dwarfed anything humanity had built, a city in space, bristling with weapons. Smaller ships darted between Earth's defenses, targeting key installations. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Grant watched as 2 more of her ships took direct hits. The Aegis devices had proven effective, but the Vesperians had quickly adapted, targeting Aegis-equipped ships as priority targets. "Status of Miller's team?" she asked. "Signal is weak, but they've successfully infiltrated the mothership," her communications officer replied. "Last transmission indicates they're moving toward primary targets." "And our fleet?" "Taking heavy losses. The Beijing and the New Delhi are gone. The Moscow is heavily damaged. Our conventional weapons are barely scratching their shields." Grant nodded grimly. "Launch all remaining fighters, target pattern Delta. We need to keep their attention on us, not on what's happening inside their mothership." Inside the Vesperian vessel, Frank and Kelly moved carefully through the alien corridors. They had encountered no resistance so far, which worried Frank more than it relieved him. "It's too quiet," he whispered to Kelly. "Where is everyone?" "Most of the crew must be focused on the battle," she suggested. "Or maybe they don't expect intruders to get past their shields." They turned a corner and suddenly faced a large chamber. Inside, a pulsing blue core of energy rose from floor to ceiling, surrounded by control panels manned by Vesperians. The aliens moved with practiced efficiency, their translucent blue skin reflecting the light of the core. "That's it," Kelly whispered. "The main power core." Frank assessed the situation quickly. 5 Vesperians all focused on their tasks. No visible weapons, but no telling what they could do. The Aegis device needed to be placed as close to the core as possible. "Cover me," he said to Kelly. "I'll place the device. On my signal will—" He never finished. A Vesperian turned and saw them. The alien made no sound but touched a panel on its wrist. Immediately an alarm began to pulse through the ship. Not a sound but a vibration they could feel through the floor. "Now!" Frank shouted. He rushed forward, Aegis device in hand, while Kelly fired her weapon at the nearest alien. The energy pulse struck the Vesperian, who stumbled back but didn't fall. These creatures were tougher than they looked. Frank dodged around a control panel and sprinted toward the power core. 2 Vesperians moved to intercept him. He fired his weapon at one, rolled beneath the grasp of another, and finally reached the base of the core. He activated the Aegis device and pressed it against the glowing column of energy. "Device planted," he called to Kelly, who was holding off the remaining Vesperians with controlled bursts from her weapon. "Set for 5 minutes. Let's go." They fought their way back to the corridor and ran. Behind them, they could hear the aliens in pursuit. Team 2, status? Frank called into his comm as they ran. Peter's voice came back strained but clear. Shield generator secured. Aegis in place, but we've got company. Team 3? Static, then Sergei's voice broken by interference. Command center, heavily defended, trying to place the device. Frank and Kelly rounded a corner and nearly collided with a squad of Vesperians. These ones carried weapons, sleek devices that hummed with energy. Back! Frank shouted, pulling Kelly into a side passage as energy blasts tore into the wall, where they had been standing. We need to get back to the shuttle, Kelly said, breathing hard. 4 minutes until our device activates. First we find the others, Frank insisted. No one gets left behind. On Earth, Dr. West monitored the battle from command headquarters. The situation was dire. 20% of Earth's orbital defenses had been destroyed. The Aegis platforms were holding, creating areas where Vesperian ships couldn't approach. But it wasn't enough to turn the tide. Any word from Miller's team? She asked General Harris. Fragmentary communications only, he replied. They've placed at least 2 of the 3 devices, possibly all 3. If they succeed, how long until effect? Minutes, Ryan answered. If they've placed them correctly, the singularities should disrupt their main systems. Without shields, we have a chance. In space, Admiral Grant's Defiance took heavy damage but continued fighting. 3 Vesperian cruisers had been destroyed. Tiny victories against their vast fleet, but victories nonetheless. Then the unexpected happened. Executor Zandrath sent a direct communication to Earth's forces. Your resistance is impressive but futile. Submit now, and we will spare major population centers. Admiral Grant's response was brief. We warned you. Inside the Vesperian mothership, Frank and Kelly had found Peter and his team. All were injured but alive. Of Sergei's team, only June had made it back, badly wounded. Sergei and Luis? Frank asked, dreading the answer. June shook his head. They stayed behind to make sure the device was placed correctly. They won't be coming back. Frank checked his timer. 1 minute remaining. We need to get to the shuttle now. They fought their way back toward the airlock, pursued by Vesperian forces. Peter took a hit to the leg, and Noah carried him. Aisha provided covering fire as they retreated. As they reached the airlock, Frank's timer beeped. Brace yourselves. Throughout the massive ship, 3 Aegis devices activated simultaneously. The gravity distortions began slowly, then cascaded throughout the vessel. Metal groaned and bent. Energy systems flickered and failed. The ship seemed to shudder. Frank's team piled into their shuttle, Kelly at the controls. As they detached from the mortally wounded mothership, Frank opened a channel to the Defiance. Admiral, all devices activated. Mothership is compromised, requesting immediate extraction. But as the shuttle pulled away, Frank knew their escape route was blocked by Vesperian vessels, and their cloaking system had failed during the mission. Been an honor, he transmitted, watching as the mothership began to collapse behind them and enemy ships closed in ahead. Frank gripped the edge of his seat as Kelly pushed the shuttle's engines to their limits. Ahead of them, 3 Vesperian fighters moved to block their escape. Behind them, the massive alien mothership began to fold inward, sections of the hull, crumpling like paper as the Aegis devices created localized singularities throughout the vessel. We're not going to make it, Noah said quietly, looking at the approaching fighters. We're not dead yet, Kelly replied, her hands steady on the controls. Suddenly, their comm system crackled to life. Miller, this is Commander Carter. Hold your position. Cavalry's coming. Through the viewport, Frank saw a squadron of Earth fighters cutting through space toward them, weapons blazing. The fighters engaged the Vesperian vessels, drawing their fire away from the shuttle. Now! Frank shouted. Kelly didn't need to be told twice. She pushed the shuttle forward, threading it through the chaotic battle. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Grant watched as the Vesperian mothership began to break apart. The destruction of the flagship sent visible shockwaves through the alien fleet. Some vessels immediately began to retreat. Others seemed to lose coordination, their movements becoming erratic. The Aegis worked, she said with quiet amazement. Their command structure is collapsing. Miller's shuttle is approaching, Admiral, reported her tactical officer. Commander Carter's squadron is providing cover. Open the bay doors, Susan ordered, and prepare to push our advantage. Target any Vesperian vessels still in attack formation. The shuttle landed roughly in the Defiance's bay. Medical teams rushed forward as Frank and his surviving team stumbled out. They were battered, bloodied, but alive, though the cost had been high. Sergei and Luis had given their lives to ensure the mission's success. From the captured command vessel, Dr. West and her team watched the battle with growing hope. The remaining Aegis platforms were creating a gravitational barrier that trapped several Vesperian cruisers, which were then destroyed by conventional weapons. Admiral Grant led a daring assault on the remaining command vessel, disabling rather than destroying it. The tide is turning, General Harris said, his voice tight with controlled emotion. They didn't expect this level of resistance. They're retreating, Ryan confirmed, watching the tactical display. Look, the surviving vessels are breaking orbit. For 3 days the battle raged across Earth's orbit. But with their flagship destroyed and their command structure in disarray, the Vesperians could not maintain their attack. One by one, their remaining ships retreated beyond Neptune's orbit. The cost had been severe. Millions dead, extensive damage to orbital infrastructure, and environmental consequences from the high-energy weapons used in Earth's atmosphere. But Earth stood unintegrated, unconquered. 6 weeks after the battle, Frank stood at a window in the lunar base, looking out at Earth. The blue planet seemed peaceful from this distance, though he knew the truth. Entire cities had been destroyed. Coastlines had been reshaped by Vesperian weapons. The world was still counting its dead. Beautiful view, said a voice behind him. He turned to see Captain Lisa Monroe. It is, he agreed. Worth fighting for. That's why I wanted to talk to you, Lisa said. We've been studying the disabled Vesperian vessel. What we've learned is interesting. She explained that the Vesperian Empire had existed for millennia by preying on worlds that submitted without significant resistance. Their technological advantage had been maintained not through innovation but through absorption of conquered species' technologies. Their weapons were designed for intimidation rather than protracted warfare, Lisa continued, and their fleet wasn't as large as they wanted us to believe. Much of it was holographic projection. Frank frowned. Are you saying we could have beaten them conventionally? No. Lisa shook her head. Their technology was still far beyond ours. But they weren't invincible. They relied on fear and the myth of invincibility more than actual strength. So what happens now? Frank asked. Will they come back? Almost certainly, Lisa said grimly. We found communication logs in the captured vessel. They've already sent transmissions to their homeworld about Earth's resistance. It will take years for reinforcements to arrive, but they will come. Then we'd better be ready, Frank said. In the months that followed, Earth began to rebuild. The International Space Alliance commissioned a new class of vessels equipped with advanced Aegis technology. These ships carried names like Defiance, Resistance, and Humanity, designed not just for defense but for deep space operations. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock to reverse engineer Vesperian technology from the captured vessel. Each discovery brought new advancements: more efficient energy systems, stronger materials, faster propulsion. 1 year after the battle, Captain Lisa Monroe stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned Warning, the first Earth vessel designed for interstellar travel. Frank was her first officer. Their mission was clear: find the Vesperian homeworld before reinforcements could be assembled. Lisa looked around at her crew, men and women from nations that had once been enemies, now united in common purpose. Dr. West was there too, heading the Science Division. Kelly Brooks had been promoted to Chief of Security. They had all seen what happened when Earth was threatened, and they were determined to ensure it never happened again. "Captain on deck," Frank called, and the crew stood at attention. Lisa smiled. At ease, she said. We all know why we're here. The Vesperians chose Earth as their target. They thought we would surrender without a fight. They thought we were primitive, weak, divided. They were wrong. She walked slowly along the bridge, making eye contact with each crew member. They gave us one chance to submit. We gave them one warning to leave. They ignored that warning and they paid the price. But they'll be back, and next time they'll come in greater numbers with greater force. Lisa returned to the captain's chair and sat down. That's why we're not waiting for them to return. We're taking the fight to them. Earth stands united now. Humanity has proven what it can do when threatened. The Vesperians thought they were the hunters, but they awakened something they didn't understand. Our will to survive. Our courage to fight. Our determination to remain free. She nodded to the navigator. Set course for the Vesperian Empire. It's time they learned that when you target Earth, you don't get a second chance. The warning's engines hummed to life, and the sleek vessel moved away from Earth orbit. Ahead lay the stars, and somewhere among them an empire that had made a fatal mistake. They had chosen Earth as a target, underestimating the species that called it home. They would not make that mistake again. As Earth grew smaller in the view screen, Frank thought about how far humanity had come. Once divided by borders and ideologies, they now reached for the stars as one people. The Vesperians had meant to conquer them, but instead had united them. And a united humanity, Frank knew, was a force to be reckoned with, not just in this solar system but throughout the galaxy.